Hey everyone, welcome to the 4 Conference. My name's Jeff Henderson, and on behalf of all of us at Gwinnett Church, we were looking forward this week to hosting church leaders from around the world for a day and a half. And we were so excited about that, but our plans, like your plans, like all of our plans, have changed. But as we got closer to this week and to today in specifics, we thought, you know what, let's still do this. Let's offer one webinar. So we're going to have one webinar. We hope this is helpful for you and your teams. We have a lot of different leaders here today. We have church leaders and church teams, and we know that you're watching probably from a variety of different places. We have business leaders, and we're so honored that you're here, nonprofit leaders, organizational leaders. And so on behalf of all of us, thank you for being here. Now, I do, if it's okay, I want to give a shout out to a few. I can't give a shout out to everyone that was going to be at the conference, but hopefully this will be a representative sample just to let you know that all of us are cheering you on and praying for you. We were so looking forward to being with you in person. And I want to give a few shout outs. Obviously, we love what these churches are doing to let their community know that they're for them and God is for them. So for El Paso, JT and the team at Hope City, you guys are doing phenomenal work. Then obviously these guys, Northbridge Church for Pittsburgh, still going to try to come up to a Pirates-Braves game, Jane, with you. And here's all the way up in Canada for Midland, and this is the Connexus team. They're doing a phenomenal job. Jeff Brody and the team there, they're amazing. There are actually 2 for St. John's. This one's Access Church in Florida. But there's another one in Newfoundland, over also in Canada. And then Guatemala, Access Church in Guatemala, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And then for the Valley, the team there, you guys are just doing, all of you are doing phenomenal jobs. But we wanted to just say we were so looking forward to being with you in this conference, but we're still going to try to add some value today. So since we have a lot of different people coming in today, and some of you are familiar with the 4 message, I want to do a little bit of an overview. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 stages that I think any organization, whether you're a church, business, or nonprofit, you need to go through as we re-enter into this new world. There are 2 questions that any organization is asking. That is, when are we going to reopen? And how are we going to reopen? When are we going to reopen? And how are we going to reopen? And in other words, what does re-entry look like? And so I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about how the 4 message right now is more relevant than ever before. So let me give you a quick overview of what the message is about. And so if you're new to this, we want to invite you into this community. And what we're trying to do is just to let the world know that we believe that organizations in the future, and the future has arrived, by the way, that thriving organizations in the future will be more concerned with being for the community than trying to get the community to be for them. But when you are genuinely for people, and when you have an organization that genuinely wants to make the world a better place, what we're about to see and what we've already seen evidence of is that the community responds and they become for the church, the business, and the organization. And one of the reasons we want to talk about this is we believe one of the ways you change the world is through one community at a time. When a community gets better, the world gets better. So the question you have to ask is, well, then how does a community get better? Well, there are a lot of answers to that, right? They need to have great schools. They need to have great churches, I believe. They need to have great government leaders. I think also they need to have great businesses. And when you have those kind of entities thriving, you have a thriving community. And every time a community improves, the world improves. So the overarching message that I want to invite you into, or those of you that are already doing this, or maybe you've got a new team member at your church, your business, and you're familiar with the 4 strategy, but they may not. Let me give you the overarching premise, which is now more true than ever before. And that premise is this. It's no longer about being the best company in the world. It's about being the best company for the world. It's no longer about being the best organization in the world. It's about being the best organization for the world. In other words, a practical business application for the business leaders, especially from a marketing and advertising standpoint. It's no longer relevant to a customer that you think you're better than your competitor. And that competitive advertising, that's old school marketing that is fading away. What we want to know, what the community wants to know, what the world around you wants to know is this. what are you doing to make the world a better place? And I know that sounds like something a pastor would say, but I'm going to get into a little bit of research here, or I can point you to research that will show you that there is data that's coming out. And the younger you go in terms of asking this question, the higher the responses are saying, hey, we're not going to participate with an organization. We're not going to participate with a business unless we know what they're doing for the world. So this idea of being for your community is now more relevant than ever before. And ultimately what this is about is we want your organization to grow. We want your business to grow. We want your church to grow. We want your organization to grow, because nobody starts a business, nobody starts a church, nobody starts an organization and goes, you know what? Someday I hope we go out of business. Someday I hope we close down. That's never the goal. The goal is, hey, we want to start something. We want to build something. And hey, when you have a successful church or business or organization, it helps improve your community. So one of the goals for today is, in this season, how can you come through this season stronger as a church? How can you come through this season stronger as a business, stronger as an organization? And I know that seems impossible. But one of the questions, the first question I want to give you today, this is a friend of mine asked this question a few weeks ago in a conversation I had with him. He said, here's a question I'm asking my business. This is a fantastic question. What does this season make possible? What does this season make possible? Yeah, hey, I'm not making light of the challenging situations. I'm experiencing this. By the way, I'm filming this in my dining room at my home. So in terms of having our worlds turned upside down, totally understand all that. I'm in my dining room. I thought that this week I would be with you, many of you at Gwinnett Church, talking about how we can get better as churches. And that's one of the things we've lost, is we haven't had an opportunity to learn from you in this week. So that's why we're hoping that you'll be able to provide some ideas either on social media or on a chat stream somewhere to say, hey, here's an idea that we're doing in our community. All that said, this season does make some things possible. So to help you get there, I want to give you the 2-4 questions. These that may sound odd, 2-4 questions, but 2 questions that you can ask your organization, your team right now. And if you're already doing the 4 strategy, I would encourage you to ask these questions again. And here's why. And here's the mindset I think we have to take in terms of re-entering into this new world. The reality for you and me is we are all startups now. In many respects, we are all startups now. And remember the startup days? I mean, they were very challenging. They were very hard. But some of my fondest memories come from the startup days. And what I'm believing for you, what I'm believing for us, is as difficult as this season is, it's going to force us to rally together as organizations like never before. And I believe a year from now, we'll have some of our most favorite memories. I feel like this for my family. We just shot a welcome video we're showing this Sunday with my daughter and me. Many years from now, my daughter and I will be able to go, remember when we shot a welcome video for Gwinnett Church in our dining room? So I want to give you these 2 questions real quick. Then we're going to talk about the 3 strategies that I think you need to implement, that any organization needs to implement as we re-enter into this new world. So the first question any organization needs to ask if you want to grow as an organization is question number 1, what do you want to be known for? What does your organization want to be known for? And it can't be a 12-paragraph mission statement in a filing cabinet that nobody knows about, but that we made it on this retreat that we did 3 years ago. Nobody remembers that. What do you want to be known for? And this season is a prime time opportunity to revisit that question. What do you want to be known for? Now, I'm not going to dive into a lot of details on this because we've got the other content, but I do want to give you one example of this from the business world. One of the examples is Zappos. And I was able to visit Zappos a few years ago, an online shoe retailer. And you would think, what do they want to be known for? They want to be known for shoes. That's what they sell. But their CEO, Tony Hsieh, he's been quoted as saying he doesn't even like shoes. So, which kind of interesting comment. And so when he said that, they were asked, well, why are you in this business? And he goes, well, I'm here, and here's what he wanted to be known for. Here's what Zappos wants to be known for. We want to be known for delivering happiness. Delivering happiness. I mean, that's a nice, sweet little thing to say. It sounds like something a pastor would say, right? But what about the hard bottom line? How does delivering happiness deliver to the bottom line? Well, it actually delivered to the bottom line quite quickly. They went from 0 sales to $1 billion in sales in 10 years. Zappos was recently bought by Amazon, like we all will be one day. Now, I had an opportunity to go out to visit Zappos, and wherever you went, there was deliver happiness all over the place, and t-shirts on the wall. There was, even when you went into the restroom, there was a sign that said deliver happiness, which was a little weird, I'll admit. That said, they were harnessing this idea that leaders are repeaters. Leaders are repeaters. So if you feel like you've got a really good answer to the question of what do you want to be known for, the next step for you is just stay on message and say it like never before. So what do you want to be known for? Now, that's your question. That's your question to wrestle with. That's your question to influence. That's, as Steve Jobs would say, that's your dent in the universe. But the second question is as powerful. But the challenge with the second question is it's not your question to answer. It's your question to influence, but it's not your question to answer. Question number 2 is, what are you known for? So question number 1, what do you want to be known for? Question number 2, what are you known for? Question number 1 is your team, the organization's question, and this is the customer's question. And this is the customer's opportunity to respond back to you on whether or not I am actually delivering on the promise of what we want to be known for. But don't miss this. Here's the power of these 2 questions. And this is why you need to be asking these questions in a fresh way in this season. When the answers to these 2 questions match, when what you want to be known for is exactly what you're known for, you harness the world's most powerful form of advertising, positive word of mouth advertising, and you create vision carriers for your organization. And now more than ever, people are looking for organizations, churches, businesses to believe in. And when they find them, they will tell their influence and their community. They will influence their community for you. And here's why this is important. And business leaders, you need to understand this. This is true for church leaders, but let me talk to the business leaders right now. A business is no longer what it tells customers it is. A business is what customers tell other customers it is. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the ball game. And that has not changed. It's actually gone up several degrees in this season that we're in. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is to wrestle through those 2 questions. That's the reason I wrote the book, Know What You're For, to help you and your team walk through these questions. But if you're asking the question right now, how do I leverage this season? How do I lead in this season? What do I do in this season? I'm telling you, these 2 questions and processing through this content, I think will be, and the fact that you're watching this today, I think is one of the best things that you can do, because the world wants and is needing organizations that are truly for them. Now, a whole lot more that we can say on that, but I wanted to give you a preview, or kind of an overview rather, of what this idea of knowing what you're for and being known for what you're for, why this is so important now more than ever. Now, in our remaining time, what I want to do is I want to shift to talking about the season that we're finding ourselves in. And obviously how you re-enter and reopen depends on where you live and what's happening and all of that. But I think one consensus that everyone has is that at some point in the future, whatever that may be, we will get through this. And so as we get through this, what do our organizations need to look like? What are things that we need to be doing now to prepare for then? How can we make sure that once we get through this, even though it's been painful, even though we've faced hard and difficult decisions, that down the road in the future, we can look back and say, like any refining time, that refined our organization to get sharper, better, more focused. I wouldn't want to sign up for that again, But while coming through that, it helped us serve our community better. It made us stronger. So I want to talk about 3 stages that I think you need to go through, that our organization needs to go through in this re-entry process that will allow you to come out of it stronger. To do that, if you'll allow me to do this, I'm a big NASA Apollo space fan. Okay, so love the Apollo space missions; they were phenomenal. And NASA had something that they called the re-entry phase. And there were 3 phases to the re-entry phase. So they went to the moon. I know some of you don't believe we went to the moon. Okay, I got that. But they went to the moon, and now they're coming back home, right? So they have 3 stages. The first stage, this space capsule just falls out of the sky, right? So the first stage is what they call deceleration. They have to decelerate. They have to, in other words, slow down before they hit the ocean, right? So there is the slowdown phase, the deceleration phase. Then there's the heating phase. And I know we probably feel like we're in that phase right now. It just seems like we're in this fiery trial. The heating phase was they needed to make sure that the heat shield on the Apollo space capsule didn't split apart and break apart. And so as they're going through the heating phase, they needed to make sure that it stayed together. And then they needed the accuracy stage, what they call the accuracy landing, the accurate landing. They needed, in other words, to stick the landing. And the challenge with that is if they didn't stick the landing, that if the space capsule came in a little bit too high, then they would literally bounce off the atmosphere, which is crazy to think. Or if they came in a little bit too low, the space capsule would burn up. They had to stick the landing exactly right. I think those 3 phases are exactly the phases that you and I need to go through as we re-enter this new world. The same as this space capsule is re-entering the world, we need to go through the same similar 3 stages to re-enter into our new world. So if you'll allow me, I want to talk about how these 3 stages can help you as a church, a business, as an organization. And all of this really is based and built on this whole idea of being genuinely for your customer, for your team, for your community, and for you. So first stage, if you'll let me, I'm going to kind of go through my notes here. First stage is the deceleration phase, to decelerate, to slow down. And the first thing we have to do is we have to slow the fall by staying connected. Slow the fall by staying connected. And let me pause and say this, that if you want to do this later on, if you'll text 4-2020 to 313131, if you'll text 4 FOR 2020 FOR 2020 to 313131. We'll send you an outline of these notes, okay? But if you're taking notes, we need the first stage, the slowdown phase. We need to slow down by staying connected. So what do I mean by staying connected? Well, if you're a business, this is true for church leaders, don't let your customers get too accustomed to doing life without you. Let me say this again, because this is a really important point, especially in this season, right? Your business is closed down, or you had to shut down for several days or several weeks. You haven't seen a customer, and your customer is starting to get used to life. They're starting to get accustomed to life without you. You can't afford to allow that to happen. Now, in church world, we have shifted to online content, and we'll talk about that in a second, which I think is amazing. But when I say don't let your customers or your church attenders get too accustomed to doing life without you, there's something that we have to really understand on this idea of staying connected, all right? And maybe you've heard this. You've heard content is king. Content is king, and I understand that idea. But in this season, content isn't king. Connection is. Let me say that again. In this season, content is not king. Connection is. What is the difference between content and connection? Content is monologue. Content's what I'm doing right now. It's just a talking head talking to the camera. Is that important? Yeah. Do we need to get helpful content out there? Absolutely. But content can be on demand. People aren't missing content. They can actually get the content anytime they want it. What they are missing is community. What they are missing is connection. And so if you're a business right now and you're not staying connected to your customers, and I understand this because you're closed, I get it. But if you reopen and you've been disconnected from your customers, you now elongated the reopening process. Because if you do stay connected, then when you open up, I think you'll see your customers respond. So what do I mean by staying connected? What do I mean by content is monologue and connection is dialogue? Here's what I mean. Let me give you an example of this real quick and point you to this. One of my business heroes is Christina Tosi. And I just discovered Christina not too long ago. She is the founder of Milk Bar Store. Milk Bar is an incredible dessert company. She has some retail outlets in New York, and she has this really cool online business now because one day Anderson Cooper on CNN just happened to mention that he had a Milk Bar cookie. It was the most amazing cookie he had. And next thing you know, people were calling her saying, hey, I'm in Minnesota. Can I get a cookie? She didn't have an online business, and then she created one. But like all of us, when the virus hit, she shut down. No more cookies. Now, she's selling cookies online. I would encourage you to buy some cookies from Christina. But what Christina did is so smart. She does this every day. I'm not sure if she does it on the weekends, but I know Monday through Friday, maybe on Saturday. She does a 2:00 live baking club from her kitchen at home. And I want to encourage you to go to Instagram. You can just search #baking club or Milk Bar. Just go to Christina Tosi's Instagram page. That's where it is actually. And it's Tosi, by the way, her last name. And I want you to see what happens in the first couple of minutes when she hits the live button. And you'll see all of these people connecting with her. Christina, we love you. We love yesterday's recipe. And everybody's trying to guess what she's going to bake today. But what they're doing is that they're actually baking together. This is so smart because what Christina is doing right now is she's staying connected with her community so that when she does reopen, she's built an even stronger community. Let me go back to the first question we asked. What does this season make possible? For Christina, what this season made possible is she built her community stronger. She probably would not have done a 2:00 baking club in the middle of the afternoon. But because of the season we found ourselves in, because of the season she found herself in, she said, you know what? What if I do this from my kitchen? And I believe what we're about to see is that this season will make her business stronger. So let me ask you, how are you staying connected in this season? Now, let me give you a few ideas of what we're trying to do at Gwinnett Church. And again, none of these ideas are new. Doing a baking club on Instagram Live isn't necessarily a new idea, but it's ideas that this season can leverage like never before. So for us, we have done a lot of live interaction. We have done a lot of live interaction in between services where I just get on camera and just say hey to volunteers. All of our directors have had live interactions from guest services. Just a few minutes before the service, the strategy here is we just want to connect with you. We've had different guests come on. I've done live chats with folks to talk about how to parent in this season, how to lead yourself in this season, business leaders in this season. But basically what we're trying to do is just to have a live interaction with one another. But here's what's so powerful about this. For example, and I'll do this. I'll just have my laptop and I'll go, oh, well, there's Jenny and there's Fred. So glad that y'all are here. We sure do miss you. But the power is when the community starts talking amongst themselves, not just me to them, or not just the person on the camera to the folks online, but it's when this community starts talking to one another, and that connectivity, that connection builds our community stronger. So church leaders, it's been phenomenal to see you shift to put your online content online. That's great. That's monologue. Should you do that? Absolutely. Fantastic. But if that's the only thing we do, then we're going to miss this opportunity. Business leaders, I totally understand if you're saying, hey, we're closed. I can't see my customers. I can't be around my customers. I understand that. But how can you stay connected in this season? I'll give you another quick idea that we're doing at our church. And this, talk about not a new idea. This is really old school. We're actually getting our phones out and calling people one-on-one and saying, hey, I just wanted to check in with you to see how are you doing today? That kind of personal, you would be amazed. I'll call people and say, hey, it's Jeff Henderson from Gwinnett Church. I'm so glad, you're part of Gwinnett. I just wanted to check and see how you're doing. And people will go, no, who is this? Really? Why are you doing this? And we're not asking them of anything. We're just saying, hey, how can we pray for you. The feedback we have gotten from those simple phone calls, and all of our staff is doing this. We've given our staff a list of phone numbers of people to call in our church. And the response out of that has been phenomenal. But the point is, all of us as organizations are bleeding, if you will. Numbers and revenue, totally understand that. But it's kind of like that space capsule, right? I mean, we're flying. We want to stop the bleeding. We want to slow down the loss, if you will. Well, one of the ways you slow down and you decelerate, as NASA would want to do, is you stay connected with your community. And I guarantee you this, for those of you that are staying connected to your community, the people that you serve, you are positioning yourself to come out of this thing stronger than ever before. Now, there's all sorts of social media strategies that are in the 4-book that I won't take your time to go through. You've got the 4-book, I hope. But those strategies are connected to this idea of staying connected. So slow the fall, decelerate the pain by staying connected to your community. I will say this. Let me mention, for those of you that have the book, page 177 in the 4-book, it talks about the pathway to brand loyalty, the pathway to creating community that's loyal to you. And there's 4 steps on page 177. I'm not going to go through these, but I want to just mention them. The pathway to brand loyalty is belonging leads to buying. So in other words, what Christina Tosi is doing right now is she's creating an opportunity for people to say, hey, you belong to the Milk Bar community. And that will create a greater sense of buying. Because, I put in my notes, creating a sense of belonging is greater than getting someone to buy something. Do we need to get someone to buy something? Absolutely. But creating a sense of belonging is greater than just trying to convince someone to buy something. So belonging leads to buying. There's purpose in the purchase. The more purpose in each purchase, the more purchase you have in the purpose. What I mean by that is every purchase that you have, you're selling purpose, which is fantastic. And there's influence beyond the business and impact from the business. So this idea of creating a pathway to brand loyalty is connected to this idea of staying connected. Because if you stay, in this season, don't miss this, and we're moving on to the second point. If you'll stay connected to your community will stay connected to you. In this season, business owners, churches, nonprofits, if you'll stay connected to your customer, however you define your customer, if you stay connected to your customer will stay connected to you. So stay connected and slow the pain of this season, because once this season is over, and it will be over, I believe because you stay connected to your community and your customers, you'll be stronger and you'll begin this season in a much stronger position than if you stayed disconnected. Just because we were isolated doesn't mean you can't stay connected. Okay, so that's the deceleration phase, which is slow the fall by staying connected. The second phase, the heating phase, if you will, the heating phase with NASA is to stay together. We got to keep that heat shield together. And stay together, you stay together by rethinking the problem that your organization was designed to solve. So in other words, if you've got a compelling problem that you are solving, that was the idea behind your organization's launch. That's why you started this organization. If that idea is compelling enough, then make sure that you continue to recast that vision. Hey, just because the world has changed, our problem still exists, the problem that we are trying to solve. So stay together in this fiery trial by either rethinking the problem you're trying to solve or continuing to cast the vision of now more than ever, this is the problem we've gathered together to solve. Let me give you a quick example of that from our world at Gwinnett Church. We did what we're asking you to do, is to ask these 2 questions at the very beginning. What do we want to be known for? And we weren't known for anything in the early days because we weren't even started. We hadn't even started yet, right? So we said, what is the church known for? And we thought, generally speaking, many people are more familiar with what the church is against rather than what the church is for. We should be known for who and what we're for. The problem is that there are people in our community who drive by our churches and they think those people or that organization, I don't belong because they're against me. And the Church of Jesus Christ has been, for many people, known more for what it's against rather than what it's for. That drives me crazy. And that problem still exists today, pre-virus and post-virus. But are there ways that we can approach that problem in new ways to solve it as a community? So let me give you a few questions. This is more of questions for you to jot down in this moment than for me to give you answers. You don't need me to give you answers. You guys and you gals are incredibly smart. But let me give you a few questions to maybe jot down so that you can begin to process these as a team. So before the virus, what problem was our organization trying to solve, right? What problem was our organization trying to solve? What were we trying to do? What were we trying to bring to the world? Okay, so make sure you have that. Don't assume that. If you assume that, that can be a dangerous assumption. The second question is, does that problem still exist in this new world? Does that problem that we're trying to solve still exist? If so, what are new ways, or are there new ways to solve this problem? What are new ways to approach this problem now that the problem still exists, but what can we do differently in this world? And what, I mentioned this earlier, what does this season now make possible to be able to solve this problem? So again, these are questions I think you need to wrestle with. And here's the great thing about this. Once you identify the problem that your organization is trying to solve, when you clarify the problem, when you define the problem, you clarify your purpose. So let me say that again. When you define the problem, you clarify your purpose. By the way, a little side note, another sermon for another day. That's not just true for organizations. It's true for you and me. Once you and I define the problem that we want to give our lives to, we clarify the purpose we want to give our lives to. So this is a really important point, I think. So the world has changed, has your purpose. And then one of the ways you get to purpose is these two questions. What do you want to be known for, and what are you known for? So let me give you a quick recap. The NASA phases of reentry: decelerate, slow down. Then the heat shield, we got to stay together. And so the way that we, in terms of the first one, the way we slow down the fall is to stay connected. The way we stay together and not break apart is to make sure that we've clarified the purpose of why we got into this in the first place. And then the third phase is the accurate landing, okay? And so here's two things that, in terms of stick the landing, right? Remember I said earlier that if this space capsule is coming to Earth, if it's too high, it bounces off the atmosphere. If it's too low, it burns up. It's got to stick the landing. There are two strategies that I think will help us stick the landing. And it's stick the landing with flexibility and viability. Flexibility and viability. So I wrote down some stats here, or not some stats. I wrote down some content here, some bullet points to kind of help you. But flexibility and viability are your friends in this stage. So let me tell you the difference between these two. So now is not the time to be defensive of yesterday's strategies. Be flexible. But now is not the time to try every new idea. Think viable. Okay, so you have to think really smart. Your budgets, your income, like all of ours, has been constrained. And by the way, another side note, when it comes to constraints lead to creativity. As hard as this season is, this might be the greatest season of creativity that your team has ever seen, because constraints now force us to think differently, okay? So you're coming into a new season. Don't be defensive of yesterday's strategies. I'm not saying that you can't pull yesterday's strategies into today and tomorrow. We should. There are some great things. But if you find yourself getting defensive, ask yourself, why am I trying to be defensive? Why am I getting defensive? Am I defensive because I came up with that idea? Am I defensive because I was right in the previous world? Be flexible. Be flexible. At the same time, on the other hand, you can't do everything. So flexibility and viability. How can you be flexible and how can you be viable so that you can stick the landing and come through this stage as strong as you possibly can be? So one of the ways to think about this is, I read this book years ago called Building the Bridge as You Walk on It. Building the bridge as you walk on it. Ladies and gentlemen, gang, this is exactly what you and I are doing. We are building this bridge as we walk on it. By the way, can I tell you just from friendly perspective, please give yourself some grace. If you're beating yourself up because you're like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing and I don't know if I'm making the right decisions, you do know that you're a rookie at being in a global pandemic, okay? So please give yourself some grace. Maybe the reason the Lord wanted you to watch this today is to kind of take the pressure that you're putting on yourself. And I know there's pressure. I understand that. I'm not saying we shouldn't deal with pressure, but there's some pressure that you're carrying right now that you don't need to carry, all right? So in that season right now, as we find ourselves, here's what I want you to do. You're building the bridge as you walk on it. So in terms of flexibility and viability, there's two strategies I want to give you. The first one is a 90-day strategy. What do you need to do between now and the next 90 days when your business, when your church officially reopens, however that looks for you? What do you need to do and develop some specific milestones? It doesn't have to be a lot. Actually, the fewer the better. But what are some wins? What are some milestones that you can get back into? And part of it may be financial viability, right? I mean, there's some really pressing financial issues on all of our organizations. But what are some financial viability issues that we can move into over the next 90 days? I don't know how that looks for your organization, but if you'll develop some 90-day milestones, it'll allow you to be flexible, but it'll also put some constraints on some viability issues because you can't do everything in 90 days. There's only so much that you can do in 90 days, but you can be flexible and you can be viable. That's the first strategy. The second strategy is to go beyond the next 90 days and to go to the end of the year. What can you do? I mean, none of us in 2020, coming into 2020, saw this coming, right? Or at least I didn't. Maybe you didn't either. But here we are. But what can we do between now and the end of the year to have weathered this storm financially, culturally as a team, collectively as an organization, and missionally? What do we need to do? And so thinking of it in terms of a 90-day milestone and a six-month milestone helps me as a leader, and here's why. I can get overwhelmed thinking the world has changed, which it has. What am I supposed to do? Things will never be the same. I don't know how to lead in that, but I can figure out how to lead in the next 90 days and the next 6 months. That's two of the things your team needs to talk about. How would we define what the next 90 days look like to be a success? What would the next 6 months or between now and the end of the year look like? And how would we define that as a success? Once you have some milestones and some success things to point toward, that allows you to get up and to actually have some action items to work on versus worrying. You don't need to worry. You need to get to action. So what would that look like in these two milestones? So a couple questions. What do we want to accomplish in the next 90 days? And what do we want our organization to look like at the end of the year? So to help you process that, 4 more questions, and then I'm going to dive into one final thing that's more for you personally. Here are 4 questions that I'm wrestling with as we talk about the re-entry stage. You got these 3 entry stages, right? Decelerate, gotta slow down the fall. So slow by staying connected. Then you got the heat shield, but you don't want the heat shield to break up. So you want to stay together by rethinking and making sure everybody understands the problem we've gathered together to solve. That's stage 2. Then you got to stick the landing with flexibility and viability. So here are 4 questions I think you should ask that will help you become flexible and viable at the same time. Question number 1, what are things that we need to walk away from? What are things that we did pre-virus that we don't need to do anymore, right? True for churches, true for businesses, true for organizations. What are things we need to walk away from? Question 2, what do you need to hold on to? Now, please hear me on this. I think there is this idea that things will never be the same. Some things will never be the same. Everything will not be the same. In other words, it's not going to be everything is completely going to change forever. I eventually believe people will still gather together. I eventually believe what was pre-virus will eventually come back. Will it look a little bit different? Will things be different? Absolutely. But there are some things that you need to hold on to. Don't throw it all out just for the sake of, well, everything has changed. But you got to process and ask the question. And again, as you go through 90 days and as you go through 6 months, these answers to these questions will become more readily and easier to see, but it's still helpful to ask. So question number 1, what are things we need to walk away from? Question number 2, what do you need to hold on to? Question number 3, where do you need to take new ground? Where do you need to take new ground? Let me go back to the live interaction thing. I bet Christina Tosi and her team are thinking, you know what? Once this virus is over, we may still need to do the baking club every day at 2, or I don't know if it's going to be every day at 2, but this idea of what we've stumbled onto, we got to hold on to that. So what are things that you're testing or trying right now that you need to hold on to? And then question 4, where are the gaps? Where are the gaps between all of this? Where are the gaps, maybe financially, that you need to shore up? Maybe right now, if you're a nonprofit, maybe the gap is that, and I understand this, you haven't contacted your donors for anything other than here's how you give to our organization. Maybe that's a gap. There's a friend of mine who's a season ticket holder for the Atlanta United soccer team here in Atlanta. They won the championship 2 years ago. We never win championships here in Atlanta. And he got a call. He's a season ticket holder. They called him, all right? And the season's been on hold, and they could have called to say, hey, don't walk away from season tickets. We're going to be back. They didn't do that. They called him and said, hey, Atlanta United here. We're calling to ask how you're doing. That's all. That's phenomenal. That's one of the reasons the Atlanta United soccer team has such a massive following, because they are genuinely for their community. So it's a nonprofit. Where are gaps? As a business, where are gaps? So let me repeat these 4 questions. Number 1, what are things you need to walk away from? Question number 2, what do you need to hold on to? Question number 3, where do you need to take ground? And question number 4, where are the gaps? Now, those are the 3 stages I think organizations need to move into, all right? You've got to slow the fall by staying connected. You got to stay together, keep the organizations together by rethinking this problem or reimagining or vision casting this problem that is now more true than ever before, whatever that problem your organization is trying to solve. And you got to stick the landing by being flexible and viable over the next quarter, over the next 6 months, and beyond. And when you do this, here's what I want to encourage you to do. Think more about the customer than about your business. Think more about the attender than you do about staying afloat as a church. Because the organizations that think more about their customer will think more about them. So what are you doing for your community right now? The 2 questions again. I've got one final thing for you, but 2 questions. Let me just give you a quick review. What do you want to be known for? The overarching 4 strategy. And what are you known for? Now again, I know I'm a pastor, and you may go, Jeff, what do you know about the rough and tumble business world? But I'm telling you, these 2 questions are powerful for businesses. They're powerful for churches. They're powerful for nonprofits. But I got a glimpse of this just a few months ago. David Butler is the Global Chief Marketing Officer for Kids 2. Kids 2 is a phenomenal organization that delivers products for kids. Baby Einstein might be their most famous one. And David showed me some statistics of Gen Z parents. This is the future. And these are young parents, right? Really young parents. And he showed me these statistics and this data. And he said, Jeff, this idea of being for the world and for the community, let me show you where it's going. And this data from Kids 2, the Gen Z parents were in essence saying, we want to know what you're doing for the world. And if you're not doing something for the world, we're not doing business with you. Gang, this season is a refining time for our organizations. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm saying if you'll look close enough, you'll see possibility. There's possibility in any season. And here's why I say that. And this is my final point. In any crisis in history, there are 2 choices that people have to come out of it. They can choose to remain a victim, or they can choose to be a victor. They can choose to be a victim, or they can choose to be victorious. And you know what? I'm going to allow this to make me stronger. So your question is victim or victor? Are you going to be victorious, or are you going to choose to remain a victim? So I want to close by talking to you personally today. All right? So this will be real brief. Nobody's going to have to be uncomfortable. I'm not taking up an offering today. So there you go, all right? Pretty rare for a preacher to have a microphone, not take up an offering, all right? So think about it this way, and I learned this from Donald Miller and the great team at StoryBrand. Every great movie, every great story has four characters. There's a victim, there's a villain, there's a hero, and there's a guide. Victim, villain, hero, guide. Let's take Batman, right? The victim, the citizens of Gotham City. The villain, the Joker. The hero, Batman. The guide is Alfred the butler. So think of it this way. Here's why I say this. And you may go, this is so silly, Jeff. It's not really silly, all right? So hang with me. What if your life right now was a movie script and you could write the rest of the story? You could write, here's how I came out of COVID-19. Here's how I served my community. Here's how I served my church, my business, my organization. And you wrote that story. Here's the question I have for you. If they were filming a movie about this, here's the question I want you to think through. What would a hero do in your situation? What would a hero do in this moment? No matter what your role is in the organization, don't give me this, well, I'm not the leader, don't give me that. No, I'm not going to let you push back on me on that. I care for leaders too much. All of us are leaders. What would a hero do in your story? Figure that out and write that story. That's why this opportunity, as hard as it can be, is an opportunity still to write a great story. So if your life was a movie script, what would a hero do? I love this quote from Winston Churchill. It's not the most sensitive quote in the world, so I get that. So if you want to send an email, it's winston.churchill@churchill.org. He's not going to get it. But here is his quote about any crisis. This is what he said. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Never let a good crisis go to waste. That's a little harsh, isn't it? Totally understand that. But I think what Winston Churchill is saying is, hey, victim or victor? What's your choice going to be? And this is why these two questions that I gave you from the very beginning, it's why I said in the book, these two questions are a growth strategy for work, but it's an even better strategy for life. These two questions are actually better for you, even though I think they're really great for your organization. So the question that I want you to process through in this season is this one. Number one, what do you want to be known for? Then question two, challenging question once again, what are you known for? That means that you would have to go to the people in your life and go, hey, here's what I want to be known for. What do you think? And the reality for you and me, come on, I'll just pick on me. There's a gap in my life right now. But every single day is an opportunity for me to close this gap. And this season is an opportunity for me to go, you know what? What do I really want to be known for? And what are the gaps? And how can I close the gap? Final story, and then I'll let you go. I'll never forget hearing a billionaire say this. He was asked one time what he hoped for his grandkids. And his answer took me by surprise. This was a business leader that grew up in the Depression, the Great Depression in the 20s. And here was his comment. He said, I wish my kids could grow up or experience a Great Depression. And that was alarming. Like, why would you want anyone to go through a Great Depression? And here's what he said. He said, it's not because I wish them any harm. I love them with all my heart. They're my grandkids. But when you go through a Great Depression like I lived through, you begin to understand what's really most important in life. And the things that the world says are really important, you begin to understand when all that's taken away from you, you begin to understand there are some things that the world can't take away from you. And this man would eventually experience unbelievable success, but he never let success deter him from who he really wanted to be known, how he really wanted to be known for. He never allowed the literally billions of dollars to underwhelm or overwhelm his character, because he knew what it was like to have nothing. But he also knew this powerful thing that when you have nothing, you can actually have everything, because there are some things that an economy, a downturn, a virus, difficult things can't take away. And that's your character and that's your name. That's why this question, what do you want to be known for? That's why the second question, what are you known for? I'm telling you, let's lean into these questions, not only for our churches, not only for our businesses, not only for our organizations, but for you and me as well. And I believe once we do, we'll move through this refined, stronger, greater, better. And as a result, we'll help make the world a better place. Now, all that said, we're so grateful that you joined us today. I want to mention to you as well that if you'll text FOR 2020 to 313131, we'll get you the outline for all of this. We're so sorry we weren't able to gather together in person. I certainly hope we're able to do that sometime in the near future. But I just want to let you know, if you're a church leader and you're letting your community know that you're for them, how inspired we are by you. If you're a business leader watching today, we're so inspired by you. And we do believe that purpose and profit can go together. So thanks for watching this. Thanks for doing what you're doing. And so today, let's go out and show one person that we are for them today. Thanks for watching.